Wow, look at that. I've pressed start and it is exactly at 4 o'clock. And I know people are going to be filtering in and coming into this webinar. And I'm not going to, you know, sit here for the next 5 minutes waiting for people to come in and just have some idle chat. No one wants to hear me chatting. We want to hear our amazing panelists talk. And what are they going to be talking about today on the hottest day of the year in the UK? And that's why I'm wearing a t-shirt in London today. It's 30 degrees. It's been raining pretty much the whole year in London, and now it is hot. And we are celebrating, aren't we, Abby?
We
Hooray.
are.
Hey, it's lovely and warm. So what an amazing day to kick off an amazing webinar. And this webinar is all about the ultimate guide to event app adoption. We're all using event apps now. They're brilliant. They give us notifications. They sync with our calendars. We love them. And it seems like organizers love them too. And they're becoming more of a thing. But isn't it a problem if you're getting low double digit sign-ups for your apps? Your apps just are not being used. Nobody wants that. And so what we have done is brought together three of the brightest minds in the event industry to talk about how we can increase the number of downloads of mobile apps. But obviously that's really hard sometimes because we're not dealing with just flick a switch and the downloads happen. We're dealing with humans, and humans can often be like herding cats to make them actually download these things. So we want to get our mobile app download strategies perfect. And that's why we've got Abi Cannons from Grip on the webinar. We've got Corey Smith, who's from Shepherd, who's the amazing, one of the leading event companies out there who deals with lots of huge clients in the corporate and the association space based in Atlanta. And we've got Ashley Roina from Clarion, who is, I would say, one of the leading lights in the world at app adoption. Wait till you hear some of her brilliant insights and things she's done with some of her shows. So I'm going to come to Ashley first and get her to introduce herself properly, and then I'll go around the room and then we will kick it off. So Ashley, over to you. Tell us a bit about you and what you do at Clarion.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Ashley. I've been with Clarion Events now for almost 6 years. So focusing when I had started originally on our networking and matchmaking programs, worked on our digital events during the COVID days, but now that we're back to live events, thank God, really working with our team on driving mobile apps and working with all of our individual teams to make sure that we can build the best apps for our audiences and, really looking at what their needs are and what their experience is like. So really big focus on strategy there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ashley, and thanks for joining us. Corey, tell us a bit about you. And is it as hot in Atlanta as it is in London?
It is hot every day here in Atlanta. I think we've had several days close to 100. So we're always hot, and they call it Hot Atlanta for a reason. But very glad to be here with you guys today. Again, Corey Smith. I'm the VP of Strategic Services at Shepherd. And for those of you that don't know Shepherd, we're a full service event solutions company. And my team works with a number of our key accounts to help them with growth strategies. And we do that by figuring out how to create value for their audiences and gaining a really deep understanding of what drives their audience and their events. So event apps are a big part of the discussions that we have with accounts on how they can enhance experience. So very excited about the conversation today, and that's me.
And what I'm excited about is that Corey's been behind the scenes polling a lot of his team to find out what they've been doing with their client events. So I can't wait to hear some of those insights. Abby, over to you in lovely Cambridgeshire.
So yes, I'm Abby and I work for Grip. I'm senior account manager, so I look after a lot of our lovely clients and help them with their app adoption. But I actually come from organizer side originally, so I've worked for RX, I've worked for other conference organizers as well. But yeah, and also at Slido. So I've seen both sides of the coin and know how difficult it is from every angle to increase app adoption. So I too am looking forward to the conversations as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you for joining, everyone. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to go straight over to Ashley and ask the first question. And my question is, why app adoption? What is app adoption, and why should we really care about it?
Yeah, I think for us, the app adoption and how people are engaging with the app when they're on site at our events, even leading up to the show, I think it ends up being their lifeline, right? They're logging in, they're going to have that app that's going to have everything they need at their fingertips. So whether it's looking at sessions, getting push notifications, networking with other users, or even on site when they're badge scanning, it's everything that they need to do for the event is going to live in there. And so we want to make sure that we're giving them as much as they can possibly do to make sure that they have the best experience when they're on site with us. So making sure they have resources and all that good stuff in there. I think one of the things with like the event cycle, right, is the app is usually kind of the last thing that you think about. So you start off with registration. You've got your hotels that people need to book. They've got flights that they need to book. So really, the last stop for them is thinking about that app and prepping for when they get on site to the show. So for us is we really want to make sure that they're just aware of everything that that app is going to do for them and why it's important to them.
Because I mean, Abby, taking what Ashley said there, it seems like you've really thought about the pre-event element. So you've put together a document, haven't you, which we're going to send out after this around, what was it, 50-ish app adoption ideas. And I love how in that document you segmented it via different stages in the event journey and different ways that you can boost app adoption. And one of them was around pre-event, so communicating with people in the right way. And so what are the things you've learned, and what tactics have worked for your clients when it comes to app adoption pre-event?
Yeah, so building on what Ashley said, I mean, awareness is key, and I think the biggest thing that I think is important is, rather than talk to the features that are in the app, talking of the value that it's going to deliver for the attendees. So really speaking to, rather than it's got an event map, talking about how the event map is going to help you get from place to place easier, to find the content that you need, to find the exhibitors that you need, etc. So just flipping that around, the way that we talk about it. Also, of course, just awareness in general of the fact that there is this facility, and it will make the customer journey that much easier. So making sure that in every even before the app is launched, be talking about how this is going to help them in all of the communications going out, not just the one that says the app is now live. So drip feeding often, letting people know, so that by the time you launch the app, that you're very much people are excited to use it. They're excited for the value that it brings.
Yeah, it's all about communication, isn't it, at the end of the day? Because if people don't know you've got an app, then what
Along
are you going
that,
to do? And it's got to be
yeah.
about benefits focus. You look at Apple and how they talk about the products. They don't talk about the features. They talk about what's the end thing you can do with this amazing technology.
Exactly. And I was going to say, like, to go off that point around the communication. So, in our energy space, we have two events that we collaborated really closely with our marketing team to create very segmented campaigns. So, again, looking at the audience, so distinguishing between exhibitors and attendees, but then going further and saying, okay, who's logged in and who hasn't logged in. So, those journeys for each of them is going to be very different. But those users who have logged in, right? It's how am I getting them to enable those push notifications? How am I getting them to start scheduling meetings? So I think each group had 18 different emails that the team had on hand that they could customize based on how the engagement was tracking and based off the reporting that we were sending to them. So it's a heavy lift to make sure that the people are very aware of everything that's going on.
So that's amazing. So let's just dig into that a little bit. So you had, or someone in your team had 18 different emails based on what someone did. So, for example, they hadn't completed their profile. So then you have a particular email that's sent that speaks to them. So everything's highly personalized. And what did you see as a result of that? What were the benefits?
Yeah, so I think in that space in particular, oddly enough, one of the events, their active rate, so like their login rate was actually lower than the previous year, but we saw more, almost 2 times more accepted meetings. So they were using engagement elsewhere in the app. So I think we had 2,000 more session attendees. We doubled the amount of connections. And then the other event that we also did this campaign on, we actually saw a 3% increase in active rates, which I think was close to 10,000 attendees we had. And then again, just I think it was 13,000 more session attendees, 1,000 more connections, 2 times more accepted meetings. So these users, they were going in there and making sure that like they knew what they were doing. So they understood the priority and like the key features to using it.
That's great. I mean, as a takeaway for our audience, Are we saying go away and do 18 personalized emails, or do you think it could be
I
streamlined
think we were
slightly with three?
probably we were a little over prepared just because we didn't know, right? And it was the first time we were doing it. But I think it's use the data that's there. You can see that in the back end, right? Of who's not logging in, who is, and what sessions are popular, which ones aren't. So I think you just have to take that data and really take the time to analyze it and then just customize it to your audience.
I think just someone in your team is obsessed by marketing automation, and they just play with it at the weekend, and they're like, "Guess what I've done, guys."
She did a
Um,
great job.
yeah, it sounds like they absolutely smashed it. But I think, look, the key thing there is personalization. I think there's a big part where, I think we were talking before this call, weren't we? That not all events are created equal. So some events will get better app adoption than other events. So it's understanding who's your audience, what's your event, and then tailoring your app adoption strategies accordingly. Corey, I see you nodding away there. What are some of the things you've learned from your
Well,
team?
yeah, I just wanted to add to what Ashley and Abby shared. I mentioned to you that we had conversations with close to 20 of our clients, and I think the consistent theme was exactly what both Ashley and Abby hit on, which was first of all really understanding what the drivers are for the event. For example, there was a performance marketing event that had about an 85% adoption rate. They understood what the driver was. It was all about connections and meetings, and they created an entire campaign around that topic. And the app was a big part of it. It was the conduit to make that happen, but there was a lot of buildup to when those meetings and the scheduling could begin. And I think it was about 2 weeks out. So, they built some anticipation where they were going to open it up to start the scheduling process. The campaign was all about the value of connections with peer, with sponsors, with speakers. And it was where those connections happen at this event, which happens to be everywhere. It happens in the bar, it happens, in the lobby, on the show floor in some cases. But the theme was connections, and they really drove that home and saw a huge lift with the app adoption.
So what you're saying basically is if organizers, add meetings and networking to their event schedule, to their programming, they're probably going to get more app downloads and everything's going to be better as a result because it's a better kind of overall experience for the attendees. And why is it these meetings need an app, Abby? Why is it so important to have an app when you have meetings as part of your event?
I think it's just, again, it's that time saving. It's being able to get to what you need faster. And when we look back historically at printed catalogs and things like that, there's a lot of leafing through. I've worked on events of 15,000 people, and there's a lot of exhibiting companies, and it's hard to find what you want. And I think the interactivity of it, being able to interactively search and filter and find who you need and be recommended in the case of Grip, of course, be recommended the people. So it almost does the legwork for you, so that you can get more quickly to what you need. And again, I think events are really, they're sort of very small. They sit in a very small amount of time. You only have a very finite amount of time to get what you need done, and any time that you spend talking to the wrong person or being sold to by the wrong supplier is time that you could have been spent doing something else. And I think that time is so much more valuable to people now, coming out of the P word, pandemic. Coming out of that, we've realized that actually face-to-face time is critical, but it's also very limited, and it's precious. And so getting the most out of it, that's what apps help with, after all.
And Hugh, I'll just say that I think meetings and networking are important for almost all events. But there are events, for example, we had a machinery event that we had an interview with, and the driver for that event is new product release. It's hands-on demonstrations. So really, I think it's about aligning the features with the drivers for your event. So knowing why people are attending and the value that they get from being at the show is important, and then positioning that in pre-event communications. And this happens to be a different demographic, a bit older, not as savvy with downloading apps. They had a station where they were helpful in making sure people knew how to download it, understood how to navigate the app. I thought that was a great ad. And they knew, why they wanted to use the app. So putting that content out there, incorporating that into all the communications, but making sure that there was alignment with the value that they see and the features that you're offering through the app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's have a look at that. Let's dig into that a little bit then. Let's have a chat about some of the tactics people are using to get these app downloads done. So it sounds like, book a demo to come and try out these power tools, which, to my mum, she'd be horrified if my dad went to one of those things, because he almost chopped his hand off once with a circular saw. He's now banned from circular saw usage. So yeah, book a demo. It can only be done in the app. What other things are people doing that's only in the app that means you have to download the mobile app for this event? Because obviously that's going to increase your download rate, isn't it? That's going to increase your app adoption. Who wants to go first? What have you seen, Abby? What happened at the Next Web that you went to recently?
Oh, I mean, their download rate is great. They have the design of the app is good. The features that are available are good. You've got people requesting meetings left, right, center. In terms of getting people to download it in the first place, every sign that you see, every entrance to every theatre, there's a QR code. There's QR codes everywhere, and it was just a brilliant example of, it's not just one place; it's everywhere that there's a queue or or you're going into a new area that you might need to know what's going on in that area. They really made use of that, and I think QR codes, they seem to be, if I go back sort of 10 years, we tried QR codes before, but they're having a resurgence, and they're very useful. And I'm sorry to bring up, the Next Web did an amazing job, but AgriConnect, my farming community client, they had the great idea of putting QR codes on the back of the support team shirts, for example. Top tip there, by the way, which they learned, is don't put it too high up, because long hair can cover it and then it's useless. But no, just again, that use of QR codes everywhere that you can think of that it might be useful.
Yeah, I'd say QR codes definitely in like coffee stations. I find people flock to that as much as possible. For most of our events, we usually have staff stationed at registration because that's the attendee's first touch point to getting to the event. If they have a question, usually it's right then and there. So we act as like a dual help desk, mobile app desk. But sometimes we'll put them in like our networking zone. So if people need help or assistance with meetings. But I think another area that's fun for us to do is in specific like VIP lounges. So you have to drive that person to that lounge, and then there's actually more awareness, and they're like, wait, what is this? How can I sign up for this for next year? So we try to do it in places where we can actually bring attention to things that we're doing at the show and get people more hyped up for that.
I had a small group. Now, this was under 2,000 people that had QR codes on the back of every chair. So, somebody was very busy pre-event. But, they're a captive audience. They're sitting there, and, what else are you going to do other than, scan the QR code?
And then I suppose in HubSpot, you could have a unique URL just for the chairs, and you could see how many people downloaded the app from the chairs.
That's interesting. I was going to add to that, Corey, that as well as being once they're in the theatres as well, having things like polling and Q&A being able to be used through the app, which is another way of engaging people. And while you're at it, QR codes on all the holding slides while people are waiting for the session to start.
We've heard that a lot.
Yeah, plenty of ideas.
Yeah, we also heard host hotels at check-in. That's the beginning of the journey for a lot of people. So just thinking about that attendee journey and making sure that they see it, and then I do believe for the demographics that are more in line with my age, having somebody there to help is really important. I think that personal touch is big.
Yeah, I think
the Next Web did that last week, and really nice. They had the info desk, the app help desk, and then it was like an external scanning solution desk, all in one area. So that if you need anything, you need help with anything, go there. It was really well set up.
And we saw the same thing from Flynn Roberts. I think she discussed it previously, where she does Beauty World Middle East. She works for Messe Frankfurt, and she has a whole team that goes around to the exhibitors on the first day of the show before it even starts, saying, right, if you download the app, okay, this is how you export your leads. Right, you've all got it. And sometimes you need to brute force that sort of stuff, and you've got to go around, and that's how you get ROI, and that's how you get exhibitors not churning and coming back. What other stuff are we doing that's quite extreme to get people to download the app? Ashley, have any of your shows gone as far as putting the QR code to get your badge in the
Yeah.
app?
Yep. So I was gonna say that, and that's usually pretty simple, right? Is just having that scan ID in there. So again, it's prompting them to make sure they download it, start planning ahead of time. You find when people are checking out registration, they're like, oh my God, I can't find my email with the QR code, or I can't find my badge ID. Do you need my license? And they kind of panic, but we let them know, right? If you download your app and you just scan that, you don't need to pull up anything. It's a lot faster for you. So there's that on-site benefit. Um, and I think too, another thought, Hugh, going off of your last point about like resources and, like checking in with exhibitors, we do a lot of pre-show prep, so creating guides that are step-by-step guides for people that explain why they should log in. We also do webinars, so one specific for the exhibitors to explain like why they need to edit their profile, how they can download those leads. Usually for one of our events, ITC Vegas, that webinar, Melissa, who I think is on this call, her and I ran that, and it was crazy. The amount of people who just had question after question. We actually couldn't run through our presentation. We just answered questions basically the whole time. But so yeah, we really try to focus and at least talk to our attendees or speakers too, just to give them a high overview of what they should be doing and why they should be doing it in there.
And what about relying on emails? You mentioned emails a few times there. What if they go into spam? Have you used mobile numbers? Have you used other ways of communicating with, exhibitors or with participants to make sure they download the app?
So we have a smaller segment of our exhibitors. We do a program now for some of our larger events, but it's offering more of like a VIP experience for them. So those exhibitors, I'd say, are the ones that get communicated a lot more via mobile. So they'll have our staff's cell phone to text and coordinate back and forth that way. I don't think our marketing team has done too much with excuse me, text notifications, but I know we are actually looking in to see how we can use AI in that sense and, make the experience even easier for the attendees.
Brilliant. And I've written down here, stop killing trees as well. So Corey, have you seen this, or Abby, have you seen people, I know Corey, you work at the print show, don't you? Which is probably a bit too far for them, but saying, we're not going to have a printed guide. We're not going to have a printed schedule. It's all in the app. And we're not even going to put it on the website, because then you're going to go to the mobile website and you're not going to download the app. So is there a way, there's a kind of forcing function to stop printing all this stuff, which could be a sustainability benefit, to make sure people download the app?
Yeah. Well, in the survey that we did, half of the people that we spoke with had done away with the print guide. Half are still producing that. And, their approach is more omni-channel. They want to give people the opportunity to get the information in their preferred channel. But I was surprised. I thought that was a 50%. I thought was a big number for getting away from printed guides. I was really surprised by the number of people who indicated that sustainability was not a key driver. We hear so much about sustainability, and surprisingly, it was, I think, less than 20% said that was the driver for focusing on app adoption. It was all about personalization and enhancing attendee experience, and then the management and the efficiencies they get by having people and the ability to communicate in mass in a timely manner. Those were the two primary reasons for the targeted focus on app adoption.
Yeah, because I guess with the attendee experience, you're doing things like syncing people's meetings to their calendars, which you can't do any other way other than an app.
Right.
You've got the notifications, which you can't do any other way than an app. So all this stuff just makes it a much better user experience for everyone coming to the show.
I wonder if I could hop on that and talk about the sustainability side of things. One of the things that I've seen people do is incentivize the app downloads by offering something sustainable in return. So whether that's one tree planted for every app download, or a donation, per download to a charity that's pertinent to that vertical or industry or whatever. So if you're not, perhaps it's not important from a sort of tree saving sort of methodology, let's say, but you can still make it a sustainable effort anyway, whether that's for CSR or greenness, as it were.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned incentives, because that was going to be my next tip. You've got a whole section on incentives in your 50-ish tips for app adoption. I thought some of them are really cool. Can you talk? I've got one actually, which I really, really like. But can you tell us a bit about yours, the Easter eggs and things like this that you've got to
so
help people download the app?
I mean, I think it depends on the event type, but perhaps that secret sessions that you can only read about in the app that maybe haven't been advertised. You could sign up to to receive notifications for this book signing for your keynote speaker or something like that. Even things like lotteries, being able to be entered into a raffle and to win a prize that again is pertinent to that industry in some way. There's a good few in there. I'm wondering which ones you thought were cool with you.
They're all cool, to be honest. They're all really, really good.
I've got one actually. I've got one that is quite a new one. I can't name the client. It's a client of mine. And they struggle with their exhibitors actually, buying into the app. Their attendees seem to be much better at it. And so one of the things that they've said is that for every exhibitor who's downloaded the app, that they get entered into a prize draw to win their stand for free next year. And I thought that was really, really nice. It's a nice, valuable prize, very tangible, means that the exhibitor's coming back again. But I thought that was really nice, really, really nice idea. So well done to the company I'm not naming, if you're watching.
Abby, we had one that did something similar, but it was for the attendee, and it was a high ticket conference pass that they raffled off. So
nice.
Similar idea.
Yeah, incentives, freebies, giveaways always seem to work. One of the ones I always remember is beer in the booth. I think that was one of the Clarion ones. I can't remember. I think Melissa maybe gave it to me once, where the organizer had they wanted to get app adoption and they wanted to get the exhibitors to register lots of leads, I think, in the app. And they said the exhibitor that gets the most leads, they win a crate load of beer for their booth, and most importantly, a notification in the app, so that the notification goes out and says, right, the beer is at this booth at this time. But obviously, you could only know that there's beer in that booth if you had the app, because it gives the notification. So it all works quite nicely in terms of the exhibitors, the attendees, and the app adoption. I thought it was really nice. I really like that one. Okay, love the incentives. The one thing, do you know what I completely forgot about, which I think we should probably do, is get our cards on the table. I want to have a chat about benchmarks. What does app adoption look like? Tell me percentages, because back in the dark old days, it used to be 20%, and everyone thought, oh, that was good. Not anymore. It's changed. And I think different events have different percentages. Now, I know a lot of you can't name names for privacy and other reasons, but if you can give me some sort of indication at some of the levels you're looking at these days for app adoption, what good looks like, and also maybe what bad looks like, what you've seen before and how you maybe turned it around and then boosted the app adoption from low to high. Ashley, I'm going to come to you first because you had some good ones when we were talking before.
For sure. So again, every event is very different and it's very dependent on the audience and what they're going to the show for. So I'd say in the events that we've run so far this year, we've had some apps that were around, I think we landed at around like 27% active, which that was the first time for us using an app and trying to push networking to them. So it wasn't something that they were used to. So we kind of expected that to be a little bit lower. But then we have on the flip side of that, ITC Vegas, their active rate. So we haven't run the event this year, but our goal is 90% active. So that show, though, they're using every component of that app. So the badge scanning, all of their leads, everything is done through the mobile app. And that audience, they go to that event for the networking component specifically. So again, it's a very wide range. I'd say on average, we probably sit at 60-ish%. And I guess an example of a very low active rate. So for FDIC, it's our fire conference that we run every year in Indianapolis. in 2022, our active rate was only 17%. And we, looking back on it and reflecting on that now, I think that was partially part of our problem because we were trying to solve a problem. Basically, that audience, they don't register with unique emails, or they don't have emails tied at all to their profiles. So it's a large audience. It's over 35,000 attendees. So we figured, okay, why don't we change the login process for them? So we decided, instead of using email, let's use phone number. So we're like, oh, that's brilliant. It should be so easy. It wasn't, because people would forget what they were registered with their phone number. If people forgot their password, they don't have an email now tied to them, so they don't know how to log in. They're not getting anything. So we caused a little bit of chaos ourselves. So we learned our lesson there. And we just ran the show in April, and thankfully our active rate is up to 43%. So we went back to the normal login process, but we actually utilized GRIP's guest access for those people who don't necessarily know what they're registered under, or they don't have an email, not a unique email. So we tried to make it as easy as possible for them to make sure that they can get in there. So we were happy to see that increase there.
Amazing. Great insights. Love all those. And thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. Corey, you've got a stat, haven't you, that you've kind of worked out by talking to your
do,
students?
and I was really surprised by where the average was from the 20 or so events that we interviewed and surveyed. Prior to joining Shepherd, I was on an event organizer. I worked in B2B media, and surpassing that 20% mark was huge for us. Several years ago, and when we surveyed this group, the average was 60%. And there were several that were north of 80%, the highest being 85%. The lowest was 20%. So it was really surprising to me. The themes that I saw, there was an automotive show that was about 80%. The common thread was very dedicated marketing campaigns highlighting the values that we talked about. So there was a medical event that you had to have the app to check in for continuing ed. There was the marketing event that was all about the connections. They did a very targeted connection campaign. So each one understood their audience, understood the value that they delivered at their event, and they aligned the features of the app. But I was really impressed with where the adoption rates are and the focus. I think organizers now see the value. One of the key value pieces was the data and analytics that they gather from active usage, and their ability to take that and to do planning for the future, positioning, programming, and planning, the social events. So there's a lot of value that some of them are starting to realize and starting to utilize in all their planning.
Mm-hmm. I
Right.
think that's really, really key. Ashley, you mentioned badge scanning. We see the numbers rocket when people use the badge scanning feature of the app, just because it's another reason for people to want to contact Exchange. It's an easy way of doing it. It's an easy way to have all of your leads in one place. Less manual work afterwards to somebody's typing it into a spreadsheet somewhere, So yeah, that really helps. One thing I wanted to caveat though was that what good looks like for you isn't what good looks like for somebody else. And actually, like you say, that each event is different. And I have actually had clients where especially when I first took over the account manager role, I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is really low. This is a really low number. But actually for them, they're so pleased because it's way better than they ever would have thought that they'd got to. So I think organizers should benchmark themselves rather than benchmark against, some events are unlikely to get up to 90%, and 40% is what good looks like for them. So just, don't get scared by these huge numbers. It doesn't mean that it's a failure if you don't reach these numbers. Some events are just not destined for that. It's quite simply.
Yeah, I think you're right. And some events are destined for it because you've got a very tech savvy audience. I suppose ITC is one of them. And then I think I've heard of other shows where, it's a very product focused show, and the people at the show are selling their mum and pop shops and wholesalers selling things via paper invoices, and they don't have a smartphone. So they're never going to download an app. So yeah, I think you're right, Abby. It's about understanding your audience and see what works. But more and more, we're seeing people do get the value from the apps, and I think what you were saying, Corey, it's about repetition, and over time, eventually people understand it and get to use it and see the value and come back next year, and it's just a snowball effect, really.
I wonder if I can just add to what Corey was saying as well about the data and the analytics, because that is huge. Being able to see how an exhibitor has performed against what they're telling you, how their show went, versus the number of leads you can see that they've got from your event. This enables you to have really good sales conversations, and this is a revenue generator in the future for you. If you can grow app adoption rates, now you can sell sponsorship to the app. Now you can sell more visibility to people. There's lots of things that you can do on top of that once you've got the data that allows you to sell effectively. When you know the number of people that are downloading it, now you know how valuable that opportunity is to your exhibitors and sponsors.
It's also nice to see, like, on the data side, the who's meeting with who, and are there gaps in, like, okay, this audience has a demand for this audience. So like there's, I think, a larger pool of that data where you can actually go bigger with it and see, okay, actually, you're looking at the larger event. You're not just looking at the mobile app analytics. And something that we do in the app is we call it a vibe check. So every day it gets added for at the end of each day. So attendees, when they're in there, they can click it and then just submit us feedback for how their day's going. So it's a nice way for us to just not even, again, not mobile app related, but just understand how their show's going. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they frustrated? And is there anything that we can do to change? And there have been times where we could actually pivot quickly to make not enough water. Okay, so let's get more water for them for the next day. Other things obviously are larger where I can't change the whole program agenda this time around, but maybe for next year we know to do 10-minute breaks versus 20-minute breaks in between. So yeah, I feel like you can get a lot of insights through the app.
Actually, I love that idea so much, the vibe check. I would love that. I would click on that for sure.
So let's keep the good vibes going with our webinar, and let's build on that a little bit and just come back to what you guys were saying about the user experience. What I seem to kind of get the sense of is if you make it a 10x user experience that's only available via the app, people are going to flock to it over time. And so some of the things that I thought was really interesting that I picked up from your article, Abi, were things about, you were talking about Q&A polling. It's kind of like the physical experience at the show that's just amplified by having an app. It just makes it so much better because you could watch a session and just not engage with it. But if you had the app, it would be so much more visceral, I suppose. And I suppose there's other things like that you can do with the app that just improves the overall event experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that we see underused at Grip is that you can have a different experience depending on whether or not you're, what kind of data type you are. So the VIP experience can be different. The homepage and what's visible to them and very apparent is very different to maybe how you want your exhibitors or sponsors to be interacting with the app. And I think going back to Corey's point about the personalization, that it should, the things that you're pulling out, the features and value that you're giving to your attendees can be based on the individual personas within your event. And like I say, it takes some time to think through, it's a bit like your 18 emails, Ashley, it takes a little time to think through of how you might like to redress the app according to data type. But if you do, there's real value there.
And I suppose talking about personalization, Ashley, would something like these personalized event agendas where you can star certain sessions that you want to go to, you probably don't get that anywhere else if you've got a printed agenda. So does that sort of stuff work for you guys in terms of creating more personal experience?
Yes, for sure. And we're actually, for ITC this year, a big focus for us is actually utilizing the homepage and customizing that more. So if I'm a specific audience type, we're going to have blocks that are just geared for those users. So hoping to connect them with more of the same users, promote more of the session topics that relate to them. So making sure that we can get like pre-filtered things for them and pre-adding sessions to their calendar. So that's one way that we were going to look at doing it. And I think we are going to do it with ITC. We've done it on our energy side as well, as sometimes we have a mini event within the event. So specific users have access to both events. So it's creating that custom block so that way they're the only ones who can access that micro event that's happening ahead of the show. So that way they have everything at their fingertips too, and they can see the different agendas that's already filtered for them, just making it as clean and as simple as possible for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're seeing at Grip is we're getting a lot of requests at the moment for side events, and organizers want their exhibitors and sponsors to be able to create their own side events. Because, you've got these huge events with 300 sessions, and would it be nice to create a very personal, more intimate show experience for 10 to 50 people, and they decide who comes to their particular side event, but it's all curated or approved by the official organizer. And that's only available via the app. So I think what we're coming back to here is all these great experiences are only unlocked by having the app. But I suppose a lot of this is down to the communication, because if you don't have the right communication, then people won't know that that's where you get all this good stuff from the app.
Exactly.
So before we go on to like the future and what we're all going to do, I just wanted to do a quick couple of minutes on training your team, because I get the sense that you've got to walk the walk, talk the talk. And so your team has got to be using the app, and they have got to be experts on it. And is this something you've seen, Ashley, with your team?
Yeah, we have a whole process. So as the app is being built before we go live to our customers, we actually have a week window where we do a formal testing internally with the entire team. So we send them their logins. We have a form that they fill out, just to let us know, like, how does the map look? Is there anything missing? Does the homepage look okay? So we ask for their feedback. Not everybody submits it, which is fine because we know people are busy right before the show. So we try to get them in there and to engage with it that way. And some of our other teams, we will have like a pre-call to just give a run through of the actual app. So understanding very high level for them how users can log in, how they can make a meeting, how they add something to their calendar, just in case, like if anybody comes up to them at the show, they can answer it. If they can't, then they can send them to me. So just making sure they have the education, and same thing with any of our temps on site. So they'll have a login for the app and they should be versed in it. But it is always nice when the team say like, "Oh, I found this in the app. It was very helpful for me." So that always makes us feel good when we hear that.
Excellent. I love it that your team's always the app experts, and they're all over the adoption. So if they get asked, they know to give the right answers, and that helps boost app adoption at the show. So, okay, let's change gears. We've got a couple of minutes left. What about the future? What crazy, zany ideas are we going to do for our events in the future? Are we going to recommend to our clients to get them to do? Obviously, printing QR codes at the bottom of coffee cups, so when people drink a coffee cup, they see. No, that's a terrible idea. Ignore me. Hands up, anyone who's had some cool new ideas that you want to test on events that have never been done before, or maybe haven't been done by enough people. Who's got some good ones?
I don't know if this is crazy, but we're trying it with ITC, just more around like our filtering and the data that we put in there. So more for us internally, I guess, but trying to just make the filtering process easy for the customers. I want to say we had over 10 filtering questions on our attendee list, which I think was very confusing and how we worded it. So what was nice is we met with our contact at Grip earlier this week just to map out what it could be and understanding really like the logic behind the matchmaking and are we wording it properly and is it set up accordingly? So I think that was really helpful. And with the customization, we're hoping that actually we hear a lot more good things about that aspect of the app. So really excited to see how that comes into play.
Hugh, I don't know if this is a crazy new idea, but we talked to a few people who, are focused on continuous improvement. So after the event, they're asking, how they utilize the app and what would have been valuable, had certain features been included. I love the idea of training the staff. That didn't come up in the conversations, but I think it's essential to have a very informed team. I did hear explainer videos so that people can access it and view it versus reading about it. I think people are very visually oriented now, so I think those are important ideas. We had one group who was going to rename the app to a digital concierge. Taking all of those curated ideas that were provided, making sure that those were available to them and promoting that, but just naming it something different that seems, more white glove, seemed like a unique idea. I hadn't heard that before.
I love that idea. I'm going to jump off the back of that, and I agree that training the staff is really key. I think especially the sales team, quite often they're going to help with exhibitor downloads. They're probably doing the morning check-ins with their exhibitors anyway, with their clients, and so encouraging them to make sure that they're getting as many leads as they possibly can using the features available to them. I was just going to say, this isn't a crazy idea, because my crazy ideas come from my clients, so I just benefit from what they tell me, but I think one of the things that I think is good is that if you have an app provider, then lean on them, as Ashley's been doing. Lean on them to help guide what you want to achieve in the best possible way. And I think at the moment, as account managers, we're encouraging our clients to have app workshops and things like that, where we can go through these lists of things and be sharing, cross-pollinating between our clients on best practices, and that's key. So do use your app provider, whoever that might be, and because we're here to help you, and if we don't have the answers personally, then we can go out to our colleagues, and they can also share their experiences in the same way. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you, guys. You've reminded me, Abby, call to action for this webinar. Grip has a app adoption workshop. So if you want to sign up, talk to your account manager, or send us an email in marketing, book a demo, and we'll do that workshop for you for free. Right, that's the gratuitous plug out the way. Abby, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you or what you're up to? Is it LinkedIn, email?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Check it fairly frequently. Also, abi.cannons@grip.events. Happy to hear from you via email anyway. But yeah, happy to have a call with whoever wants to have a chat. If you like my 50-ish ideas, then happy to add more of your crazy ideas to it as well. Maybe it'll be 100-ish in a few months' time. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to me.
And Ashley, how can people get in touch with you?
Same as Abby, so LinkedIn works great. And then my email address is just ashley.roina@clarionevents.com.
Lovely. And Corey, thank you for joining us today. How can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is great. Also, C. Smith at Shepherd, SHEPARDES.com, ShepherdES.com.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We're 3 minutes over, but I don't mind, because there was such a gold mine of information there. Lots of lovely, juicy nuggets about how to boost app adoption. It was perfect, and we will see you on the next one. So thanks, guys, and yeah, have a good rest of the week.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Bye.